Friday, second grade. Today is May 22nd, and we are on lesson 12. You should have your remote learning packet for this week out in front of you. First, I'm going to give some shout outs for homework completion so far this week and scholars who have completed their mid-module 8 test. We will be going over your application problem, doing our concept development together, and I will review the directions for your problem set and homework. If you stick around for the end, you can follow along for some optional review. Some shout outs for our mid-module 8 math assessment achievements. So this is just so far as of Thursday around 4 o'clock. So if you have completed your assessment and don't know your score yet, you can contact me and I'll let you know how you did. Some shout outs so far for achievement from Miami. We have VD, PQ, JW, EHP, and SDG. Awesome job. From CSU, scholars that showed achievement on this test were AL, JL, CW, ACL, and CA. Thumbs up to you guys. Awesome job. Keep it up. For scholars who have turned in all of their required math homework for this week so far. So again, I am checking this right now on Thursday around 4 o'clock. So scholars who have submitted 100% of their math homework so far from Miami, FDM, VD, CDG, EHP, AM, and AW. CSU, way to go KD, XM, and CW. If you have not gotten a chance to complete all of these assignments yet, I need Monday and Wednesday's pages, please. And I can give you some feedback on how you're doing. I look forward to seeing your work. It is time for your application problem. Please turn to page 75 in your packet for this week. It should be the first math page for Friday. Follow along and I'll read the problem. Tugu made 2 pizzas for himself and his 5 friends to share. He wants everyone to have an equal share of pizza. Should he cut the pizzas into halves, thirds, or fourths? How many pizzas are you going to draw in your picture? Look back in the problem. You should draw 2 pizzas. What shape are you going to make your pizzas? I would draw 2 circles to represent your pizzas. Watch as I draw mine. Next, you need to decide how you should partition your pizzas. So should you partition them into halves, thirds, or fourths? There needs to be enough slices of pizza for Tugu and his 5 friends. Please include a number sentence and words to explain. You can send a picture of your work to me if you want me to check over it, or you can wait to compare your work with the answers on Tuesday. Objective for today is I can recognize that equal parts of the same rectangle can have different shapes. So we're going to be looking at all the different ways we can partition a shape into equal shares. There's more than one way to represent our halves, thirds, and fourths. For today's concept development, you are going to complete page 76 with me. The materials that you can use, this is optional, or you can just follow along with mine or visualize it and draw your pictures. I am encouraging you to go to this website and use the online geoboard. So the geoboard is the board that we use with rubber bands to create our shapes. So you can practice this using this online tool here. I have also included the link in the description up below. On the first part, I need you to make the biggest square possible on your geoboard and then see how many different ways you can show halves on your square. How many pieces should there be when you are showing halves on a shape? Show me on your fingers. 2. There should be 2 equal shares when you are showing halves on your shape. When you are done making as many different ways as possible on your geoboard, I want you to draw 3 examples of the different ones that you made. You can follow along and watch the different ways that I showed halves on a square. So this is that online geoboard that I would encourage you to try using if you go to that website for mathlearningcenter.org. I'm making the largest square possible, and then I'm going to add some rubber bands to show halves. My first way. So I partitioned it right down the middle with a vertical line. And here's my second way. I'm doing a horizontal line. Next, you could do a diagonal line. And that's another diagonal line. So then you would draw your examples in the blank squares. Those are my 3 examples of different ways to show halves using a square. Before we move on to question 2, I have a question. Do these halves look the same? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. What do they have in common? No, these halves do not look the same, but they have similarities. So they both are showing halves. However, one is showing triangular pieces and the other is showing rectangular pieces. So they have some things in common, but they don't look the same. They both show halves and they have equal shares. All right, ready for the next part. So we are now going to use that same blank square on your geoboard and see how many different ways you can show fourths. So how many equal shares do we have to show fourths? Show me on your fingers. 4. We need to show 4 equal shares. And then when you are done experimenting, you need to draw your at least 3 examples of different ways to show fourths. You can pause the video to work on yours, and then when you're ready, you can watch and see if you made any of the same ways as mine. So I'm adding 1 rubber band to show 1 share, another rubber band, and then a 3rd rubber band. So if I add 3 rubber bands there vertically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal shares. That would be one example, and I can draw that in my square. What could be another way? I'm going to try and use horizontal lines this time. Now I have fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I used horizontal lines that time. Now for my other way. I'm going to do 1 vertical line down the middle and then 1 horizontal line. So maybe you cut your sandwiches this way into 4 equal shares. And then there are also some other ways. Maybe you came up with this way. What shape are my shares now? Triangular. And I have 4 equal shares. So I came up with 4 different ways to show fourths. Do these fourths look the same? What do they have in common? Share your thinking. No, I don't think these fourths look the same. One has triangular shares, the other one has square shares, and then the final one has rectangular shares. So they definitely don't look the same, but they do have some things in common. They are all showing fourths, so 4 equal shares. That is it for our concept development today. So you should have been using your Geo board to experiment and show different ways to partition a square in different ways. They needed to have equal shares, and if you're showing halves, they need to have 2 pieces, and if it's showing thirds, it needs to have 3 pieces. Fourths will have 4 pieces. Problem set time on page 77. Partition the rectangles in 2 different ways to show equal shares. So remember, they have to be equal shares or pieces. Show me 2 halves, and on the first one, they need to be 2 different ways. And the next one, show me 3 thirds 2 different ways, 4 fourths 2 different ways, and then on the other ones, it has to be 2 different examples for 2 halves, 3 thirds, and 4 fourths. On the bottom, you are going to solve the word problems and draw your solution, so you're thinking. Margot, Richard, Kelly, and Lincoln each wanted pieces of the cake. If they each got equal shares of the cake, draw 4 different ways the cake could be cut. So if it's Margot, Richard, Kelly, and Lincoln, how many people is that? 4 people. So are you going to cut these pieces of cake into halves, thirds, or fourths? Decide on how you should cut it and then show it 4 different ways. On the last word problem, Peyton, Brody, and Drew wanted to split a pizza equally. Show 2 different ways they could divide the pizza so everyone gets equal shares. So think about how you should be cutting those pizzas, halves, thirds, or fourths. Next is your homework. So on page 78, you are going to partition the shapes 2 different ways to show equal shares. So on A, show me 2 halves 2 different ways on the rectangle. Next, show me 3 thirds, 4 fourths, and then on the square, show me 2 halves, 3 thirds, and 4 fourths. Again, it needs to be 2 different ways. And that is it for today's lesson. If you are still watching and want to stick around, you can review some skills with me. For our first review, we're going back to the number line. What's wrong with this number line? What do you notice? You should notice that some numbers are missing, and we have letters there, so we need to figure out what A, B, and C equal. The unit length is 5 centimeters. What does that mean? Unit length. It means we are going to skip count by 5s. So if you notice at the beginning, 60, 65, it's counting by 5s. So at this time, I want you to count the rest of those hash marks and figure out what all the numbers are. I'm going to give you some time to check over that and count, and then you can compare with me. Ready, set, go. Alrighty, you should be close to finishing. If you need more time, you can pause. Check over some of the first numbers with me until we get to A. Ready? 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Thumbs up if you got that far. All right, counting more. Keep counting by 5s. 80, 85, 90. That letter equals 90. Keep going. 95, 100, 105, 110. What does C equal? 115. Where are our endpoints on this number line? Point to the two numbers that are the endpoints. Our endpoints is where it starts and ends. So this starts at 60 and ends at 115. Next, what is the difference between the endpoints? So remember, 60 and 115 are endpoints, and I want to know what the difference is. What do we do to find the difference? We have to subtract those numbers, or we can skip count between that distance. Now that skip counting is going to sound different than what we just did. We're going to start at the beginning and picture that it's 0, so 0.0, and we're going to count on by fives now. So I would count it like this: 5, 10, 15, 20. Can you do the rest for me? All right, so whatever number you said last when you got to the end is the difference. So I want you to keep that number in mind, maybe write it down so you can remember. Pause if you need more time to continue your counting. Okay, so we left off at 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. So from the beginning to the end, the difference or distance was 55 centimeters. Thumbs up if that's what you got. Another way you could have solved that was by subtracting 115 minus 60 equals 55. All right, what is the specific name of this shape? Specific name. Ready, go. If you said quadrilateral, that is the category that the shape belongs to, but the specific name, it's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's a trapezoid. Give yourself a point if you got that one. Keep it up. What about this shape? You can count the sides to help you understand what the name is. Say your answer. Ready, go. It is a hexagon. Hexagons have 6 sides. Hex means 6. What is the name of this shape? The specific name. I'll give you a hint. It has 2 pairs of parallel lines. Ready, go. It is a parallelogram. That's a tricky one. So parallelograms look like slanted rectangles, and they have 2 pairs of parallel lines. They belong to the quadrilateral category. What is the specific name of this shape? How many sides does it have? It has 5 sides. What's the name of our 5-sided shape? Pentagon. So this is kind of like a pent house. Looks kind of like a house. And pent means 5. Something new. Which shapes are split into 3 equal shares with 1 share shaded? You can choose more than 1. This is something that maybe you've seen on your mid-module assessment, or if you haven't taken it, this will be good review. You can point to the shapes that have 3 equal shares and 1 share shaded. A is not 1. B is not 1. Those are 4 shares. C, that's 1. D, that is 1. And E is not showing 3 equal shares. So C and D, those are the correct answers. Next one, each figure shown is one whole. Describe the shaded part of each figure using halves, thirds, or fourths. So we have 4 shapes here: triangle, square, circle, and rectangle. Describe the shaded part. Pause the video for your think time. I'm ready to go. The first one, it's showing 2 halves. Next one, 3/3, 3/4, 2/4. Or another way to say 2/4 could be 1/2. Those are the answers that I would expect to see. This figure's shaded area shows one hole. So one hole is shaded. What is another way to describe the shaded area? Blank halves, thirds, or fourths. 3/3 is shaded. Describe the shaded area in this shape. So what's another way to describe the shaded pieces? Blank halves, thirds, or fourths. Count how many pieces there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is showing 4/4 shaded. And that is it for our review. Some last minute reminders. Make sure if you haven't done it yet this week, you have 45 minutes completed on iReady Math. Make sure that you have completed your math diagnostic on iReady. And then you need to check Edulastic to complete mid-module 8 assessment. Finally, in your packet, you need to submit pages 11 and 42 for credit. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. We do not have any assignments or lessons to complete on Monday because it is Memorial Day and we do not have school. So I will see you guys again on Tuesday, May 26th.